Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bachelor Nation official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The brilliant single woman contender Imprint Anderson was hypothesized to be a maker plant who wasn't on the show to date Joan Vassos. On the off chance that this is valid, it demonstrates, for certain, that the show's makers care more about the show than the lead. They couldn't care less on the off chance that Joan gets her heart broken, as long as the main time of the female-drove unhitched male side project is engaging and gets solid evaluations. It's a disgrace on the grounds that Joan really has the right to find genuine romance once more. Joan made her TV debut on Jerry Turner's Time of the Brilliant Single Man, yet she needed to pass on right on time because of a family crisis. She was offered one more opportunity when she was projected in the Brilliant Unhitched Female Season 1. Joan met Imprint on the main evening of the time, yet he was recognizable to crowds, since he showed up on The Lone Ranger Season 28, when Kelsey Anderson brought Joey Graziadei home to meet her dad. Progressively, it seemed to be Imprint wasn't on the show to date Joan. Single guy country fans were past excited when it was reported Imprint was projected in the Brilliant Lone Ranger Season 1. However, he was supposed to plunge in and win Joan's love. It didn't resolve that way. Joan was far additional intrigued by different men, similar to 60-year-old Chalk Chappell and 66-year-old Person Gansert. Joan and Imprint hadn't associated, and neither appeared to be attempting. Other than the one time Imprint pulled Joan to the side and gave her an extemporaneous German illustration which finished was a kiss, there hadn't been a lot happening between the two. During a new episode of the show, Joan let Imprint know that however she loved him definitely, something was absent. In the event that Joan was in it for notoriety, she couldn't have ever left Jerry's Time of the Brilliant Unhitched Male early. She would have remained and parlayed her fleeting brush with popularity into a powerhouse vocation, the way Imprint's girl, Kelsey, did. Joan is no more unusual to genuine affection. The single man was hitched to her late spouse, Joan Vassos, for a very long time, before he died in 2021. Joan isn't on the Brilliant Lone Ranger Season 1 to be renowned, while Imprint is by all accounts there to be given a role as the brilliant single guy. The unforgiving truth is that the makers of the Brilliant Single Girl Season 1 aren't relational arrangers, they're just keen on making an engaging show. A new model is when makers of the Brilliant Lone Wolf Season 1 drove Jerry and Teresa Nist into getting hitched way sooner than they ought to have. The extravagant Brilliant Lone Wolf wedding got incredible TV evaluations, however the marriage was over only 3 months after the fact. Ideally, makers will not get among Joan and genuine romance. Brilliant Lone Wolfess Imprint Anderson was amazingly sent home Wednesday night. Joan Vassos let him know that she didn't feel he was far an adequate number of along in his recuperating cycle subsequent to losing a significant other to bosom disease. Many fans were not content with how she treated him. Now that he is at this point not on the show, he is making media adjusts, and during one meeting he discussed assuming there were sparkles among him and Joan by any means. What did he need to say? Continue to peruse to figure out more. Mark Anderson dishes on whether flashes flew among him and Joan. Brilliant Unhitched female fan most loved Imprint Anderson, who is additionally the dad of Kelsey Anderson, was sent home by Joan Vassos. Everybody was very stunned to see Imprint as well as 2 other fan top picks get wiped out on that very night. Mark showed up on the Lone Ranger Party Time digital recording where he discussed whether there were even ignites among him and Joan. Joe Amable posed Imprint this significant inquiry. Mark said, "Whenever I chatted with Joan, there was a flash since she's simply someone like that. She's brilliant, simply a lovely lady all around. She's simply awesome. She would converse with you, and at first going in, I couldn't say whether I was the principal individual, last individual, however when I got up there, it was like it was only her and I. What's more, every time talking with her, it was only her and I. You never contemplated any other individual since she made me the main individual there. It was perfect." If by some stroke of good luck Joan had an equivalent outlook on Imprint. Nonetheless, many fans accept the show was getting him positioned to be the following lead on the Brilliant Lone Wolf. He dished on their most memorable kiss. Mark Anderson additionally conversed with Joe Amabile about his most memorable kiss with brilliant unhitched female Joan Bassos. Joe wanted to find out whether at that time he felt like he was 16 once more. Mark said he felt more like he was 13 or 14. He noticed that inevitably one simply fails to remember the cameras are there by any stretch of the imagination. Mark shared they were simply having a good time and he was attempting to keep it extremely light and furthermore let her get to know more about him. At the point when he kissed her, he said it felt extremely regular. Joan made it extremely simple to fail to remember that the cameras were all on him. At the time, Joan likewise noticed that she loved the kiss and said he ought to have requested it sooner. Nonetheless, somewhere close to that second and the second he left, things got sidetracked for them. Eventually, he wasn't the one for Joan, yet he's presently confident and feeling exceptionally honored. What was your take on Joan and Imprint together? Did they have science? Brilliant single woman fans are incensed over the manner in which they feel Joan Bassos abused Imprint Anderson not long prior to sending him home. She expressed a few things that truly annoyed fans. Maybe she simply didn't have an association with him and this was the most straightforward method for severing it. One way or another, fans could have done without it by any stretch of the imagination. Continue to peruse to figure out more. Brilliant single girl fans disagree with how Joan Bassos treated Imprint. Joan Bassos and Imprint Anderson went on a one-on-one date and appeared to make some respectable memories. Be that as it may, a few fans saw there were a few exceptionally abnormal minutes during the starting pieces of the date. In the wake of mulling over everything, Joan went to the manor to converse with Imprint after the next day. Old neighborhood dates were on the line and she expected to go with certain choices. She reached the resolution that Imprint was not an ideal one for her. Fans were good with her concluding that Imprint was not so much for her. Nonetheless, it is the means by which she dealt with it and what she told him that hit an off-base harmony with watchers. Joan said, "I feel like we fortified in such a significant manner and I felt so significant. However, everything made me maintain that we should be great. In any case, I returned home last evening and I continued to think yet I don't have any idea where's going wrong." She proceeded to share that something didn't feel right and she awakened with some lucidity. Joan said, "I feel like you've become so much by and your heart is retouching yet I didn't see me in our discussions and I didn't feel I envisioned us. I would rather not go into a rose function when old neighborhood is at stakes. I want somebody as far along in their excursion as I'm." For what reason did this outrage everybody? Fans resented brilliant unhitched female Joan Bassos for having the nerve to tell Imprint Anderson that his heart is as yet repairing and that she is further along in her mending cycle. Many contended that she discusses her late spouse John like clockwork. Allow me to get this straight, Joan is booting Imprint since he's not far enough along in his excursion. In the meantime she discusses John each third sentence. Joan lost her better half quite a while back to disease. Mark lost his better half to malignant growth also, yet it occurred in 2018. Everybody was miserable to see Kelsey Anderson's father get dismissed. Nonetheless, there are additionally many fans who accept he was positioned to be the following lead on the brilliant Lone Ranger. What was your take of Joan's justification behind sending Imprint home? Could it be said that you were irate as well?